In the previous video, we discussed the 5 different categories of strength. And a quick review of the 5 categories are absolute strength, which is the maximum amount of weight one can move for one repetition. Starting strength, which is the amount of force we can apply at the beginning of a movement. Explosive strength is how explosively I can begin that starting strength. And then there's speed strength, which is actually a combination of starting and explosive strength. It's how, for time, how quickly I can make that movement. All 3 of those, starting, explosive, and speed strength, kind of combine into really one type of strength, but there are differentiating specifics to each strength. And then the last one is strength endurance, and that is simply stated, how long of a period of time can I apply that same strength? So let's look at a few different sports and how, the different 5 categories can relate to those sports. Absolute strength is pretty cut and dry. Again, a sport such as powerlifting, where all the events are, it's based upon how much weight you can lift for one repetition. Same thing with Olympic weightlifting. It's how much you can lift for one snatch or one clean and jerk. There are other smaller components that add to those events. There's no sport that is really just one particular category of strength. So if we look at, say, powerlifting, for instance, yes, it's absolute strength. It's what the criteria of judgment is. It's what makes you win or lose. However, let's look at the deadlift. It's an amount of weight on the floor that's inert. It's not moving. So you must get into position and be very explosive with your starting strength. Okay, speed strength, not so critical here, but explosive and starting strength incredibly important, because if you can't begin the movement and you can't get the bar to move from that inert position, you're going to fail at the lift. So you kind of see how in this particular event, it's not just one strength, it's a combination really of 3. The Olympic lifts are dynamic lifts. Again, you're starting with an inert weight on the floor. You have to be extremely explosive to move that weight off the floor. You have to be extremely fast with it, because it's really a matter of being able to receive the weight and then repeat the explosion. So it's a speed and starting strength off the floor explosively. You receive the bar, then you have to kind of repeat the same process. You got to start to move on the clean and jerk. You got to move the bar up over your head again into a press position. So that requires, again, starting speed and explosive strength. So even within the one lift, you have two different separate segments of 3 different types of strength at different times. And then the culmination of the lift, whatever you lifted, is an absolute strength category. Now let's look at, let's say, a 100-meter sprinter. Obviously, what jumps out right away is starting strength, how fast I come out of the blocks, explosive strength, how explosive I am as I come out of the blocks, and since it is a timed event over a period of a set amount of length, speed strength, how rapidly I get up to, out of the blocks, and I get up to, say, 40 meters, which we'll discuss later when we talk about energy systems, but about 40 meters is my maximum acceleration point. So you can see that starting, explosive, and speed strength all relate very strongly to a 100-meter dash. Is there strength endurance? No, because it's at the Olympic level, it's a less than 10-second event. Is it absolute strength? No, because it's not a one movement strength. It's a really explosive, bust out of the blocks, starting explosive, and then speed strength. How rapidly I can get up to that 40-meter point where I'm at my maximum speed. Let's look at a team sport. Now, when you're designing protocol for team sports, you have to look at each individual position and design their protocol based upon their strength demands. So, for instance, in football, an offensive lineman, he has to rely a lot on absolute strength, because he has to be very, very strong to hold off in most cases at the professional level, a 300-pound or 285-pound defensive lineman. He has to be he has to have a very good starting and explosive strength, because he's coming up out of a 3-point stance, and he has to be able to come up quickly and explosively and begin to apply that absolute strength. So you can see that there's three really strength factors here, and of course strength endurance, not really, because football is a 5-second event. Most plays are completed under 5 seconds. So 3 to 4 seconds, depending on if it's a pass play or a running play, he has to be very fast. He's got to be very explosive to be able to apply that absolute strength to hold off his opponent. Now let's look at a wide receiver. Absolute strength really doesn't apply to this athlete that much, because he's not in a position where he's got a player on him right away, where he has got to either force the player back or hold them off. His critical components in the strength department are obviously starting, explosive, and speed strength. How fast he can get off the line, make his cut, and then get open. So it's critically important that when you design training protocols for team sports, that you understand the uniqueness of each position and design those protocols accordingly.